Network.
And we are back. You're listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the International Business Growth Radio Network. Welcome back. I am joined today by Ellen Long. Ellen, welcome back. We were just talking about the three main drivers of business value, and you told an awesome story. You told a lot of awesome stories, actually. And but one of the greatest things that you told there was about giving people the options as they get into that transition towards their exit. And it got me thinking, how early should a business owner be thinking about their exit?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. A lot of people ask us this. Ultimately, you should be thinking about your business as an investment. And I think that's really key. So thinking about it outside of just being an entrepreneur and building something, but how do I look at my business like an investor? Well, I think every investor or entrepreneur should have a coach and specifically an exit planning coach. And the reason I say this is if you strategically build your business for a lucrative exit, even if you don't sell it, you're going to have a higher caliber business than the person who's not thinking about that, right?
Yep.
So I think of it even in terms of your house or your real estate. A lot of people do this where they wait until the very end. And they're like, oh, I need to sell my house. Oh, I should upgrade the bathrooms. I should upgrade the kitchen. I'm going to do all this work. And then they look at their house and they're like, oh, I should have done this a long time ago. I wish I could have lived in the house that I just created.
Right.
And so for us, it's let's build a business that you love, right? That's a high caliber business. That's profitable. That's fun. That supports your family. All of those things should be done from the beginning. Yep. And the reason I say this is we do a lot of negotiation. We end up doing a lot of negotiation between partners because they've set up the business in a way that isn't helpful for either of them. So we see a lot of like 50-50 businesses where no one's the decision maker.
Ooh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, what happens? One partner usually is the one that becomes, the front facing and they're making all this stuff happen. And then a lot of times the other business owner is just chilling.
Right.
They're taking their money, they're having a good time, they're not working as hard, and you have this dichotomy between the two. And even if it's not working hard, we came into a business where, it was 50-30-10, but the 50% owner only had one vote. So he owns most of the business, but they have equal votes, and so they're in this huge stalemate. And he was the leader, he was the entrepreneur, and the other guys were kind of just along for the journey, adding their parts, but not creating the kind of scalability. And so we came in and basically said, hey, how can we all win together? And basically ended up negotiating that so that the main guy could really have the company make the decisions, and they have 10 times their business in 4 years because of that.
That's awesome. I mean, so there's a lot to take away there, but what I love, we even talk about this in the book. It's the concept of begin with the end in mind. And I love the idea that you have there about, getting that space from your own business and looking to, bring in an exit planning coach, bring in someone who can help you understand your business the way that an outside investor would. Because ultimately that is what you're building. If your business is either investable or it's not, and most are not. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, I would say 90% of businesses won't sell because they haven't built it in a way to sell. And one of the things we love, we worked with this M&A firm, STS Capital. They're an international global firm. And what we do is if a client says, hey, I'd like to sell my business in 3 to 5 years, we bring in the M&A firm and we say, hey, what are the things we can do strategically in the next 3 to 5 years? And we do this collaboration with the client of what's the marketplace looking for? What are buyers in the space looking for? And then we literally build that in the next 3 to 5 years. And so we're creating the end in mind from that 3 to 5 years. So we're not going to the marketplace and saying, hey, do you like us? Do you want to buy us?
Right.
We're going to the market and saying, what can we build to make this more attractive to buyers?
So that's really huge. We did an episode a number of months ago, essentially, what does it look like to be a value investor and look at businesses? And there was a reason we looked at it from that particular range, and it was because value investors tend to be very conservative, and they tend to really, they'll do a discounted cash flow analysis and then do like 3 more discounts on top of that to even, so they embody the idea of capital as a coward. But I love how you've already come up with an antidote for that, which is, let's go to the capital markets and here's an idea. Let's ask them what they want, and then build it for them.
Yeah, no, we love that, because ultimately we want to sell to strategics more than PE firms. So
right.
The difference is private equity, the way they normally work is they have a formula. It's based on the financials. Mm-hmm. And that's basically it. They'll offer you, this multiple, and it's based on your financials, and that's all there is. Well, we like to sell to strategics, which is how can we strategically combine these two companies and add leverage far beyond financials?
Right.
Because those type of buyers will pay way more than a PE firm will. Now, sometimes we end up selling to the PE firm anyway, but we're using the strategic buyer as leverage of creating those multiples. And then if the PE wants to be on top of that, great. But then they're outside that financial model that they normally use.
Yeah, and without oversimplifying it for everyone, because we get these questions quite a bit. They're to the average business owner, oftentimes, they just hear stories. So there's not necessarily a large understanding out there in terms of the difference between a strategic buyer versus just a financial buyer or a private equity type buyer. So sure. I'd love if you could maybe, let's talk through what that looks like, because sure. you have human capital, you have social capital, you have structural capital, you have all these different types of things that you've built, and so walk us through maybe a story or an example of sort of how that all goes together and why someone might choose a strategic buyer for their long-term benefit as they transition through their exit versus just pulling the ripcord and crashing out.
So it can be someone who's either upline or downline from you. So suppliers, it can be your biggest competitor. Sometimes your strategic buyer is your biggest competitor, just wants to get you out of the market because they want to own that whole space. Sometimes it's companies that are looking to, like we had a company who they wanted to have an American presence and they didn't have a foothold in America. So it's an international buyer that comes in and says, oh, you've already established a foothold in the American market and we would like to grow. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's, I just want to get into a new market. So it can be so many things. Sometimes it's a specific process that you have that if they had that process in their company, it would 10 times their efficiency. Yep. So there's just so many different reasons, but again, to me, the difference is, if I had this company, it would be this much more for me. And the idea really, we had this one company. So an S&P 100 company bought them. They were trading at 20 times earnings on the S&P. So, and our company thought, we're not worth that much. But the key was when they sold to the S&P, they added their EBITDA. So they bought the company for 10 times, added their EBITDA to their company. Well, they trade at 20. So this company immediately made 10 times by buying our company.
Right.
So getting into those spaces where there's just something so much greater than just, we added your company to ours, the end. What's strategic about your company? Right. And I think that's the key. Asking yourself, who could be my buyer and what strategic position could I play in their space?
Yeah. And I want to peel back the onion a little bit on this, because the example you just gave is really great. So you have SP 100 company trading for 20x. They buy the smaller business at 10x and immediately double the value of that business simply by having them be a part of your bigger company. But if we let's blow this out into the future that we're all going into right now. We're hurtling into a new future where the workforce is totally different culturally. I just got off a phone call with a client talking about this a few minutes ago. And what's interesting, and I think a lot of folks don't think about, is if you're actually creating a culture that embodies the workforce and where it's going over the next 10 years, the chances of you getting acquired by a strategic acquirer goes up exponentially, because there are many cases, Walmart did this starting in 2016, where strategic buyers will start to buy these smaller companies to essentially absorb and then extend a better culture than the old culture. So I don't know if you've seen anything like that, but that's where I'm seeing the tea leaves take us trend-wise.
Yeah, and a lot of entrepreneurs think, the company that buys me, they're just going to fire a lot of my employees and just kind of, put them into their company. Well, oftentimes that's not true. They're actually looking for strategic people, not just strategic companies, right? So what's a talent inside your company that will help their company be better? And a lot of times they're just looking to add, they don't want to replace everyone. They're looking to add that arm to their company. So and even the financial firms even more so actually is, and I agree, I think culture is important. So again, what are the things that make you unique? It may be your employees, it may be your culture. Even more reason, by the way, to make sure that your employees are aligned with you on vision and mission and all of those things, and especially at the close.
So the initial question was, how early should you start thinking about these things? And it's really sort of the trick question around when should you plant a tree. I mean, sure. 10 years ago, but if you haven't done it, maybe get to that this afternoon, right? So I'd be curious, when you're inviting people to start thinking about their exit, what are some common mistakes that people think, like what are some common ways of thinking about the exit that you might view as mistakes or may view as just, hey, like let me get this one out of the way so you can think about this more clearly?
Yeah, I would say mistake number one, thinking that you can come to me in a year and say, hey, I want to sell my company in 1 year. Well, the M&A process takes 9 to 12 months. So that means there's nothing that we can really do to help you. You're basically going straight to M&A. So there's no prep. I think that's the biggest mistake.
Okay.
The second one is thinking, okay, I have all the time in the world and I have the perfect moment that I would like to sell my company. Well, you have no idea what the market's going to be like at that perfect moment. You have no idea what your health is going to be like. You have no idea what the business economy is going to be like. So we always tell people, look, hire someone like us for 6 months to a year right now. I don't care where you are or what stage you're in. Hire us right now. Let's build a foundation. Let's build a roadmap. Let's build a trajectory of where you want to go. And then you have all the foundational pieces in place and then off you go. So we've done this with our clients. Off you go build that thing, come back to us, hire Wally, get your marketing, all that stuff. And then come back about I like to say 2 years, 2 to 3 years before you want to exit. So we have, again, that time to really look again at your business. Is there anything we can change in this year? Quality of earnings, Google audits, all that kind of stuff. So that when we present it to the buyer, she is beautiful and wonderful and someone's going to want her.
I love all of this. So before we take a short break here, you have an extraordinary exit checklist, which I think is incredibly valuable and folks should check that out. Where can they find the extraordinary exit checklist?
Yeah, hopefully it will be in the show notes. But our website, longbusinessadvisors.com/your extraordinary exit, but I will put it in the show notes as well.
Awesome. All right, we are going to take a short 2-minute break. You have been listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the International Business Growth Radio Network.